Good everyone, this is Captain and the Coach, and we're here with our captain Trav Carruthers and myself, James McCracken, who is the coach. And today we're discussing the interesting topic of am I building a book or a business? So, Trav, do you want to give us a bit of background as to why you thought this would be an interesting topic for our audience to ruminate or give consideration to?
Yeah, look, I think as brokers, we can be quite naive with certain things, and I think if you went to an event, we would be talking to brokers that would all be telling us that they're business owners. You and I have a little bit of a difference of opinion here. I get my opinion is quite extreme, so I completely understand your stance on this. But if you're settling less than 500 million, if you're less than 20 staff, in my opinion, you're a high-paying job, not a business. No disrespect to the listeners. That is me. I have a high paying job. I don't have a business. I am working towards getting a business, and we'll talk about how that looks. But so it's about being clear on your why you're doing this, right? So there's no right answer here. So there's nothing wrong with building a book, and there's nothing wrong with building a business. Trust me, building a business is a hell of a lot harder. That 1 to 2.5 mil gross revenue, it is a very, very lonely place, and it's a lot harder. It's a lot easier to go from zero to $1 million in gross rev than it is to go from 1 million to 2.5. It is what my belief would be. Yeah, so it's around just having a conversation on are you building a book or are you building a business and what the pros and cons of both are.
Interesting. So, I think you've basically said that 90 something percent of the industry is in a high paying job. Just courtesy of your statement a moment ago about, if I heard that correctly, that if you're under 500 mil, and that was settlements per annum, is that right? Or is that okay? Uh, would you give a bit of leniency there to say you've got a 500 mil book and therefore you're a business owner, or are you sticking with your guns here?
Now, here's a perfect example, and this is where I'm just gonna expose myself here a little bit. I'm gonna be a little bit raw and just give it like you look at my business, right? We've been very, very successful. We're writing reasonably good volumes. We're growing quite rapidly, right?
Yeah.
I can't leave. I am 70% of the revenue that's driven, that 70% of the gross revenue for Virtus is driven by me.
Okay, so how? So I think what I'm hearing you say, without you getting to the next point, is that you define to some degree a business as being reliant more on the system structure team as opposed to the individual. And if the individual is what might sometimes be called the linchpin, or that the business revolves around that person, then by definition, it's more of a job. Is that where you're alluding to?
Yes, yes, that's it. You've hit the nail on the head here. You've hit
Okay.
the
So if that's the case, does it have to be a particular figure? Because I wonder if there's businesses out there who are doing 500 mil, and frankly, there would certainly be some extremely high performing brokers close to that number where they absolutely couldn't leave because they are the linchpin. But there would be brokers who are doing well less than that number where I know that they can step away for weeks or months at a time.
Yeah, yeah. Look, that's just a number that I've just sort of put together in my own mind, probably
Okay.
applying my lens to where I'm at in my business. Like we are currently 15 staff, I think. We probably need to be sitting at probably 25 before we're sort of transitioning towards me being off the tools. Like I need
In your opinion.
this is in my personal experience in my model. So every model's different, right? So, but like you might have a business like yeah, you're right. You could have a business that's settling $250 million a year and it's profiting $250,000 a year, let's say. That's what the net profit is, right? But yours to me, that's probably not a great model for me. That profit margin's probably not. If you're over a business that's got 20 staff and your net profit's 250 grand, it's probably not ideal. So
In your opinion.
yeah, yeah, exactly. This is my opinion. My numbers, yeah, but yeah. So
Okay. Yeah, and so I think this is an interesting point because you might have ruffled some feathers with your initial comment, though I just want to bring the audience along for the journey here and say, do they notice some of my NLP techniques in terms of the art of persuasion and getting you back to a point where maybe we could have a look at this from a
yeah.
different perspective? By the way, for everyone that's wondering NLP, please reference our previous episode. But in the meantime, so yeah, I can absolutely think of brokers where they'd be earning or broker practice owners, actually, specifically people that are no longer writing loans, but for which they are the major shareholder in their business. And they would have an income well under half a mil, but for which they have a significant amount of freedom and they could literally step away for months at a time and the business would almost not miss them. And so I guess there's a question to be asked for each person as to what is it that's most important for them. And potentially that question, which is the one between income versus freedom, and whilst potentially we want both, there might be different stages of their life journey, as much as their business journey, that could influence the importance or the priority of one over the other. So I would think for a lot of people, at least initially in the first few years of running their business, they would have some level of interest around wanting to elevate their income in order to be at a point where potentially they could reinvest some of those funds back into creating scale, growth, structure, staffing, etc., to reduce the reliance and the burden on themselves. Mind you, not everyone, because I know others that have gone down that rabbit hole and they come out the other side of it. And I can think of one person particularly who would have had a half a dozen contract brokers at one point. He had a couple of full-time staff members, and he is the only person in his business right now. I think his wife might potentially be involved, just because they've moved to a remote part of Australia, and it was easy for her to do that. But that was also through choice because he just decided more staff was more headaches, and more contractors was more headaches. That again doesn't mean it's right or wrong. It just means that's the view of the world that he had at that time, and I think it just justified to him that going small was a better option to afford him some flexibility around what he wanted to do and when he wanted to do it, rather than having to field questions from everybody all of the time. So I think it's important that, yeah, people recognize where they are in their life cycle and what they're aspiring to achieve, as distinct from being influenced by what they see others doing at certain events or some of the lists that are out there and thinking, well, they could do it, so could I. It's, you know,
Hmm.
I think sometimes we can aspire to do the wrong things because that's what the marketplace is conditioning us to think is what success looks like.
Yeah, and that's what like, leading back to what I said at the start of the podcast. So there's no right answer here. Whether you're building a book or whether you're building a business, there's no right or wrong answer. I'll give you two examples. I won't mention names, but I know of one particular broker said I was 100 mil a year with four offshore staff. Massively profitable model, like really good work-life balance, actually, believe it or not. Like really, really strong systems and processes, great team. But
Yep.
he's a broker. He's a broker, and that book is relying on like I mean the new business is relying on him. Don't
Yep.
get me wrong, when he wants to exit, he will be getting well and truly over the multiple that what if the market, let's say the market at the moment is three times multiple on trail, I would say his book's probably, put it this way, if he was to sell his business tomorrow, his book, I'd probably pay probably 4 to 4.5 for that. I would buy it in a heartbeat at 4 and 4.5, even though current market, because I don't need his systems, but his team, I know the type of clients he's got because of the client experience. So he's a broker, right? Very, very successful, very, very profitable model. Then on the other hand, I've got a friend of mine who 25 staff would be hitting those numbers that we're talking about. EBIT in the business is probably 250 to $300,000 a year, so probably earning less than half of what
Yep.
what the broker is earning. But he could go to Europe for 3 months and the business would run, and he could replace himself. There is a myriad of people, as long as they've got HR management experience,
Yep.
that they could probably step in and run his business as good as he could, or maybe probably not as good as he is. He's pretty elite, but he could find someone that could step in and run his business. So,
Hmm.
but his exit now is probably higher. We're talking about selling that book on a multiple of EBIT. So let's just a conversation another day, but EBIT, when we're talking about an actual fully fledged business, we're probably looking somewhere from 5 to 9 times EBIT is probably what the market, depending on other factors in the business. And when you look at selling a book, it's probably 3.5 maybe. So his exits, he's probably going to end up with a bigger exit, but his profitability along the way. But again, his lifestyle too. So you're right, there's lifestyle factors, and neither one of them is right or wrong. Both of them, in my opinion, very successful models.
Yeah, and I think that's the point, right? Is for people to have clarity over what they're doing and thinking about the medium to long term. so that their short-term decisions can preferably align to or support them with where they're going and have intentionality or purpose behind them, so that they're not whimsical, they're not sort of reacting to the thing that's causing them pain or discomfort or inconvenience today or tomorrow, but they can be clear that this is a part of a medium to longer term journey. And I know for some people, they will happily compromise profit in the short term to build a substantial asset over the medium to longer term. Again, I'm not suggesting or endorsing that, but I know for sure it has happened and it's happened many times. And I know the opposite's the case is some people will happily work hard to build significant upfront and volumes for a year or two so that they can build a really strong client base, and then that they effectively go into more of an account management type of role in terms of looking after their existing clients, and therefore the year on year growth of their book's not going to be substantial, but nor are they looking for it to be. They always wanted to get to a point where, and a good example will be when they wrote, for example, 100 mil for 2 years in a row, that assisted them in terms of building the book more substantially. And then they were happy to take their foot off the gas, right, quote unquote, about 60 mil. And most of that was repeat business or some referral business. And it was pretty easy going. And they could do that comfortably, still maintain good profit margins. And yes, that business is absolutely reliant on them, but it was accommodating where they're at and their aspirations around income versus quality of life.
No, no, you're exactly right. And this is where I think people need to understand their why, and they need to have an honest conversation with themselves. So, Sluts always does it to me, or every time we're talking about a strategy or a direction I'm taking the business, it's always like, why? Why are you doing this? Why? Constantly, why? And so I've spent a lot of time because I know that I have to answer this question when I'm talking to different people.
Yep.
And the most profitable model for me, especially in the short term, was just to write more loans, like just to be a sole broker. We have great systems and processes. My focus should be on my own volume, but instead I'm building this contractor model. I'm doing I mean, we're building something bigger, and it's creating me all these headaches. And you're going to roll your eyes at this, and I completely agree with you around work-life balance. I got up at 4 a.m. on Saturday and worked from 4 till 9, and then on Sunday I got up at 4 o'clock in the morning and worked because there were things that I needed to build because I'm not just being a broker. Like I'm trying to build something bigger, right? And yeah, you're right. Work-life balance, it's not ideal for me, but this is what gets me out of bed in the morning. I wake up on a Monday morning excited to go to work. If I was just to be a broker, no disrespect, I still enjoy writing loans and enjoy working with clients, but I can't just write deals for the next 10 years. Like it would, I'm not, I'm not improving. I wouldn't feel like I'm building. Yeah, the remuneration would be more than enough for me to sustain the lifestyle that I want to lead. I don't
Yep.
need to earn more money. What I need to do is I need to give myself a purpose. I'm 42 years old. I probably won't retire until my mid 50s. If you ask my wife, I probably will never retire. But maybe I'm just being delusional, but hopefully I can retire in my mid to late 50s. But yeah, I want to get out of bed, and I want to be challenged for the next 10 years. And that's why I'm doing what I'm doing. And yes, am I bringing on more work? It's not actually resulting in more profit at the moment, but
Now, I think that's okay, right? Because I think that's where we then get to forego the need for a work-life balance in pursuit of something greater. Because work-life balance is clearly going to accommodate some people, again, contextual to their aspirations and their commitments around other responsibilities in their life, i.e., family, health, well-being, etc. And again, that might look and feel different at different stages. I mean, rightly or wrongly, but probably wrongly, I deprioritized for well over a decade my health and well-being in some respects. I also worked, I would say, a lot longer hours than what they say to do as a coach, but I did it because it was important to me. I didn't feel like doing 50, 60 or hours or whatever I was doing was work. It just felt like something that I enjoyed doing, and I was happy to do it. And I certainly didn't make much of an effort to look after myself from a health and well-being point of view, but those things are now important to me, and I prioritize them, and my work to some degree works around some of these other commitments as opposed to these things falling by the wayside. And so that's evolved as my life circumstances have matured as well.
yeah, and that's the life cycle of a business owner, right? Perfect example. I went to the National AFG event last year, And there's probably 800 brokers there that are all talking about wanting to write more volume. They're all there because they want to learn to write more volume. We did a little mini conference with a small group of high performing businesses. Everyone
Yep.
in that group was talking about how do I work less? But these are established businesses, big staff, running high numbers, and how do I reduce my hours from 40 hours a week? One of the brokers in the group is trying to get to 15 hours a week. Massive, really profitable business, really profitable business, and he's pretty close to it. Like he's sitting there, like he's going to work 15 hours a week, and you look at he's got better profit margins than probably 99% of people in the industry. But he's worked extremely hard to get there, right? So I'm not saying this for everybody. Like it's so you just got to think about like you look at what he's done, you're like, wow, I want that. But the reality is, like me, because I genuinely want to achieve what he's achieved, I know how hard it is. So if you're not prepared to do the work, just go, no, I don't want that. I want to write $100 million a year for 2 years, and then I want to go into maintenance mode. I want to work 30 hours a week as a broker. I'll be a broker till the day I retire. I'll sell my book on a multiple trail. Yeah, I mean, I'll give me a little nest egg into my suit, like into my retirement. But you're not going to get like you look at what I'm looking at selling when I exit. I won't exit for a long time, but the hope is that I'll exit at somewhere between 5 to 9 times EBIT. And people go, well, that's great. Yeah, but you didn't, if you're not prepared to put in like what I've 8 years in now, so it's probably 20 years for me to get to that point. 20 years of, yeah, I mean, doing extras. If you don't want to do the extras, don't do them. Just build a book.
And for most people, I would think that that would more than accommodate uh, their career aspirations, and hopefully give them the financial outing that they're after. And there's different ways to exit as well, which is certainly not part of today's conversation. Where being a high performing or even a medium performing broker, and perhaps more importantly than that, is a good contributor to their household, where they feel like they're being stimulated in terms of what they do on a day to day basis. Hopefully, not to the point that it's creating stress, which this role can do in mortgage broking, or undue amount of stress, where it creates burnout, but where they can do something that feels meaningful, that feels purposeful, and whether that's wearing the hat of broker practice owner, which again is aspirational and being able to take 2 or 3 months off, or where they don't necessarily have that range of flexibility, but what they do have is the ability to take their laptop with them. Yes, they might have to work when they're overseas. In fact, one of our clients literally got on a plane yesterday and went to Bali for the next month. And so, yes, he'll still do work, but he'll also be enjoying doing it from the side of a pool. So it's about understanding, yeah, what's important to you individually, and being consistent with that. Yes, you might be inspired by others. You might be potentially challenged by others. And I think what's really important, though, is to not lose sight of what's really important individually, because I think this industry does a really good job of lauding certain people based on performance only, where that doesn't necessarily represent, well, it isn't representative of the masses, and it may be distracting for some people to aim to pursue that, potentially for their own ego, or to be in a similar position. But the reality is that getting to 2, 3, 4, 500 mil per annum, a lot of people have paid the price. And in some cases, that price is, and I've literally said this many times, in fact, to people before they become a client of ours, is I'm not the guy that you want to see if I'm going to help you be successful, only to hand in your divorce papers, because that to me is not success. You need to work out what's important for you. We'll guide you, we'll support you, we'll encourage you, but it can't be at the cost of, losing the marriage, or whatever the case is. And frankly, I think that resonates with people because it helps them know that we're going to guide them, support them, but we're not necessarily going to encourage them to do something that doesn't feel consistent with where they're going and why they're going there. Which I'll also say this is some people are less clear on their why, and that to some degree at least is the benefit of a coach, and not necessarily just a coach like you were mentioning Slats a moment ago, is people that can give you perspective and cause you to stop for a moment, look up, look forwards, and recognize where's the trajectory of where we're going, and again, why does that matter, and how can we get there comfortably, securely, effectively, etc.
Yeah, it's interesting. Like with our Vertus Direct model with our contractors, we probably say no to more brokers than we say yes to. Like we have brokers come to us,
I'm sure.
they're outlining what they want to accomplish and how they want to do it. And I'm like, we're not the model for you. And sometimes I'll go away. Sometimes it's very hard. Like our model's quite unique, right? So it's very hard to get a decent understanding on it. But what we're doing is we're providing our brokers with all the benefits of being self-employed without all the crap of self-employed. So marketing, HR, recruitment, systems and processes. We take care of all that for you. So it's literally you going out. We just want give you systems and process support for you to go write more volume. You're great at being a broker. You just concentrate on that. Let us concentrate on all this. You can write more volume. You can make more money. But just be aware, you will be selling a book. When you exit, you are selling a book. Yes, it will be worth more because you're removing that key man risk. It's not, okay, Travis is the broker and he's got three support staff. If I step into his role, will his support staff say to that, well, we've got a big team that are under the brand. So whether you leave, they're working with other brokers anyway. So the team
Yeah.
aren't going to leave, the brand doesn't leave, the systems and support stays the same. So you're removing a little bit of key man risk and you can jump straight in and it runs so you can sell it for a higher multiple, I would think, but you're selling it on trail, not on. But it's a fantastic model for those people that understand that, right? As I said, it's not for everybody, right? Some people want to build a business, some people want their name on the door, and if that's what they want, like by all means, go after it. Like that's exactly what I've done. Funny thing is, the model that I've built is exactly the model that I would have loved for myself because I just would have focused on volume and written big numbers and but it wasn't around when I was building my business. So the irony is I built exactly the model that I want and the boys play with it and I just get back into the workshop and keep building. So bit ironic, but yeah. But it's just around having that honest conversation, just making sure you know why you were doing what you're doing.
As you said, it's building a business or a book, to re-emphasize the point here, neither is necessarily better or worse, but both are important, and they can support people or relate to different stages of a journey, and and both have different challenges that are inherent within them. I would say that building a book is arguably easier than building a business because there are a range of different challenges that come with building a business. And I would also say, from experience, that for most people that are undertaking building a business in the short term at least, there's a compromise on profits for the pursuit of building the foundations, the structure, the team, etc., that can ideally allow them to create scale over a period of time. And I've seen that time and time again. And even within that, there's a broader conversation around, well, do we go contractor versus salaried? And maybe that's a conversation for another day, albeit I feel like even a 20 or a 30-minute podcast on that, even frankly, an hour-long podcast is really going to be scratching the surface
Mm.
because there's clearly pros and cons of going down and looking at those different options. And within those different options, there's also a variety of different variables that can influence what one model looks like compared to the next. So, but it is important at the end of the day to know where you're going and therefore give you more clarity and structure and the ability to some degree, keep your blinkers on so that you're not getting distracted by all of the noise that's out there. And whilst people like us might hopefully inspire you or educate you in some way, ideally and preferably is that you remain consistent to what's most important for you. I think that's really important that people do that because otherwise they'll end up oscillating and potentially not creating the momentum that they're after, which
Hmm.
I think could be easily done these days.
Yeah, you spoke about it before. We talk about glorifying particular people and putting them on a pedestal around success, and it's not ideally the case. And I think it's a pretty big misconception in our business that if I'm a good broker, I need to go and start my own business. It's like I can put a nail in my bedroom wall and hang a photo, but does that mean I can build a house? No. Like focus on what you're good at. If you're not, I'm not saying that there are probably plenty of brokers out there that are currently PAYG brokers that will make fantastic business owners. But for every broker that's got that particular skill set, I could probably we could probably find five brokers that think they're going to be great business owners, but they don't have the skill, they don't have the skill set, they don't have the drive, they don't, I mean, and that's okay. Like don't, yeah, just play to your strengths.
Yeah, and I think the other comment I'd make there is some of these skills can be acquired over a period of time, but a period of time is probably the key phrase there. And I think in an interview I did with Otto Dargan from Home Loan Experts, it's going back a couple of years ago. He referred to this as well. He talked about the fact that when he started out, he never intended to build a substantial broking firm, let alone a significant offshoring company either. But he talked about the fact that he had to build his acumen as a broker, and then there was a completely different set of skills that he had to accumulate in terms of becoming an effective business owner. And so he therefore obviously made efforts to build those capabilities, and he clearly did it well. But yeah, he invested the time, the energy, the efforts to get to a point where he was able to benefit from the price, if you like, that he paid to produce the results that the business is now achieving. But and as much as that business does do well, I have no doubt that there's a treasure trove of war stories of things that went horribly wrong along the way, and I can actually name a couple. But yeah, I think I understand that there's stresses and pressures and challenges that come with some of these different decisions.
Oh, yeah, I don't, couldn't tell you how many times I've heard it. Like you hear it from entrepreneurs on multiple forums around if you're looking to build something, it's going to take you twice as long and 10 times the effort of what you initially think it's going to. And I can attest to that. That's probably being conservative. But I enjoy the challenge of it, right? So I'm very comfortable being in the trenches and doing that, right? Because that's what I enjoy. But if that, yeah, so it's definitely not as easy as what people think building a business.
So that would beg the question of what are you doing to our audience? Are you building a book, or are you building a business, or are you building a book with a view of that being the means to accumulate or develop a business over a period of time? If you happen to be watching this on YouTube, then by all means drop a comment below. We'd be interested to know. We can respond and interact with you. Otherwise, if you're listening to the podcast version of this, we hope this has stimulated a bit of your thoughts to help you in terms of your decisions, your actions, your options to continue moving forward. And Trav, it's okay if I wrap this up just so that we can give the audience an opportunity to now be hopefully deliberate and intentional around where they're going and why they're going there. Is there any parting words of wisdom that you want to leave our
No, I
people
think
with?
we've covered it. I think we've covered everything we wanted to cover. It's a good topic.
Good stuff. All right, gang. Well, that being the case, thanks for being here. We hope you appreciated this. We hope you were finding this useful, and we'll look forward to catching you in the next episode and contributing to your growth, your journey, and your success as a broker and or as a practice owner. Thank you very much. Talk to you soon. Bye for now.